is it fair to say, Santos, before you go, that this never would have happened if we would have been just more awake and knew where we were? And this, so their ploy so far has played out. They were able to pull off this thing because we've been programmed for so long. Right?
People were just unaware.
Yeah. They did a mud flood. They did some plagues. They did it to the Chinese with opium. They did it to the Australians. They did it to the American Indians with smallpox.
Yep.
They just go into a country, plague the whole place out, and then take over their buildings. New York was already there for thousands of years. San Francisco was there for thousands of years. Los Angeles was there for thousands of years. They were built by the indigenous people who were black and Indians as well. The black people, they weren't brought over by slaves. They are the original owners of America.
Thank you.
Black people, African Americans. They don't come from Africa. They were already here, and they plagued them out. And they stole the Smithsonian Institute, which is Jesuit controlled, stole their knowledge, stole their history, and now we're just left wondering who we are, where we are, where we come from, where we're going. We don't know anything.
Wow.
Because that's what y'all wanted to see.
Because they did a catastrophe on this earth just only a few hundred years ago.
You know, I think you're not supposed to say Indian either.
Oh, wait, really?
Yeah. I think you're supposed to call them African Americans.
Everything we've been taught in the American education system is all a lie. Native Americans weren't the original people of this land. We actually took it from black people.
Here are 5 things you didn't know about the hidden campaign to erase Black Hebrew identity in America. First, in 1650, Massachusetts Bay Colony officials publicly burned Hebrew Bibles owned by Black indigenous communities because they showed Jesus and biblical figures with African features. Second, the 1740 South Carolina Negro Act specifically banned Black people from owning Hebrew texts or teaching Hebrew language to prevent them from claiming chosen people status. Third, the 1830 Indian Removal Act included secret provisions to confiscate all religious texts from Black indigenous communities before forced relocation westward. Fourth, during the 1925 Scopes trial, hidden testimony revealed efforts to suppress Black Hebrew Israelite educational materials in public schools nationwide. Fifth, modern publishers still receive federal subsidies to exclude Black Hebrew Israelite interpretations from religious studies curricula. The most shocking truth? Over 50,000 Black Hebrew religious texts have been destroyed or hidden in federal archives since colonial times. Government memos prove a coordinated campaign to prevent Black Americans from discovering their true identity as the original chosen people. What if the United States government officially acknowledged that Black Americans are the original indigenous people of this land, not descendants of enslaved Africans? This single admission would trigger the largest reparations case in human history. But not for slavery, for systematic genocide and centuries of stolen land. Suddenly, millions of acres would need to be returned to Black indigenous communities as ancestral territories. Major cities like New York, Chicago, and Los Angeles would be required to pay rent to Black tribal nations for occupying stolen land. Billions in casino rights and mineral extraction profits would immediately transfer to these communities. Federal Indian benefits, including free healthcare, education, and housing, would extend to over 40 million people overnight. The wealth transfer would be unprecedented. Black indigenous nations would reclaim sovereignty over ancestral territories in every major metropolitan area. Wall Street, Hollywood, Silicon Valley, all built on land that would legally belong to Black tribal governments. One acknowledgement would completely restructure American society and create the most massive redistribution of wealth in human history.
I've got one that can see.